All right, diving right into Stand Tall is February 28th. We're in verse 31 of chapter 7, Maneuvering of the Art of War. To be near the goal while the enemy is still far from it, to wait at ease while the enemy is toiling and struggling, to be well fed while the enemy is famished. This is the art of husbanding one's strength. Well, I'm not quite sure what the military generals from the alternate translation are going to say, but I am going to go on a little tangent, a blog post that I've started working on this morning. And it stems from a Facebook post I made about crypto. And I have been very lucky with crypto. Though it's not really luck, it was a well-timed decision based on research in when to invest in it, and also looking at the facts versus what the news headlines said. And so when Bitcoin was still in its relative infancy back in 2016 and 2017, you had many of these CEOs from big major corporations like JP Morgan and BlackRock and Vanguard, and many of the major banking organizations and investment companies. All of these CEOs would release these news articles saying that crypto is a dangerous investment, it's very risky, it's bad, you shouldn't buy it. But what was interesting about this is during that time, they were buying up Bitcoin and Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies in massive, massive amounts, right? And so while they were doing it personally, and you're able to see this, right, because of the blockchain, and so it was just very interesting to me. And so I began to invest in it in early 2020 when Bitcoin was still around 8,500. And to say that, well, it's easy for you to say, and you got lucky, Dave, and you put a down payment on your house from your Bitcoin earnings, it is easy to say in hindsight. And what this is telling me, this Sun Tzu verse, what it is telling me, while the enemy is famished, while the enemy is downtrodden, while the enemy is struggling, the enemy is average to me. The enemy is everybody else. The enemy is the average American, the mindset to be overweight, to be negative bank account balance, to be this standard deviation right in the middle of the bell curve. That is the enemy to me. And so what this tells me is to keep doing what I'm doing, to keep being patient, to keep biding my time, right? Just like he's saying, be patient and bide your time. In lots of ways, because again, we know that the art of war is truly about how to not go to war and how to win without lifting a finger. And one of the only ways to do that in life is to be smart and to invest wisely and to pick stocks and companies that you actively invest in, that you actively buy from, like Starbucks, and go out and buy that latte and buy a couple of shares of Starbucks while you're at it. Get that dividend. Right? If you eat at McDonald's, buy shares of McDonald's, get that dividend. If you shop at Walmart, if you shop at Target, go buy those companies, own those shares and get that dividend, right? Participate in the rewards that they offer you for owning those shares, for them to simply be a company in the Fortune 500 or whatever it is that they're actually out there participating in the free and open market. Okay? So let's go to an alternate translation and see what kind of perspective it gives to that. So Master Sun says, standing your ground, awaiting those far away, awaiting the weary in comfort, awaiting the hungry with full stomachs is mastering strength. Okay, so before I read what Lee Kuan and Du Mu says, just to bring the point home, right? So awaiting in comfort, awaiting with full stomach. This is mastering strength. So patience is strength, right? And so do you want to succumb to the enemy? Do you want to succumb to poorness? Do you want to succumb to bad health? Do you want to succumb to these things, or do you want to be patient, bide your time, and do you want to make these things your strength? Do you want to be waiting in comfort while the economy falls apart around you, while so much of the news headlines are so terrible, when in reality it's the own choices that you make for your own life and not paying attention to the enemy and to the enemy's headlines and to the things going on in the world around you, and not letting those emotions affect you, right? Because so many of those headlines, all they're meant to do is to gather your attention and sell you and sell your information to marketers. choose not to participate in that. Choose to participate in substantial work. Li Kuan says this refers to the forces of guest and host, which was talked about previously, just recently. Du Mu says this is what is meant by getting others to come to you while avoiding being induced to go to others. Right? The old story of the old bull and the young bull on the hill under the tree. Look at all those cows down there. I'm going to go to them all. The old bull says, I'm going to wait for them to come to me. All right? But that is only in certain circumstances anyway. Still just a little bit sick. Almost over it though. Whether this has been pneumonia or bronchitis, the cough is less frequent. The drainage is not as bad. All right, let's go over to the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. I got a treat for y'all tomorrow since it's a leap year. I hope you're ready. All right, February 28th, when you lose control. Actually, this might be interesting for me. I had a failed father moment earlier this evening. I think I'm going to be looking back on it with a remorse and regret for many years to come. When you lose control, the soul is like a bowl of water, and our impressions are like the ray of light falling upon the water. When the water is troubled, it appears that the light itself is moved too, but it isn't. So when a person loses their composure, it isn't their skills and virtues that are troubled, but the spirit in which they exist. And when the spirit calms down, so do those things. Epictetus, Discourses 3.3.20-22. You messed up a little, or maybe you messed up a lot. So that doesn't change the philosophy that you know. It's not as if your reasoned choices permanently abandoned you. Rather, it was you who temporarily abandoned it. Remember that the tools and aims of our training are unaffected by the turbulence of the moment. Stop. Regain your composure. It's waiting for you. And I think that's a great way to wrap it up. Because when you do lose control, you're not awaiting in comfort anymore. You're waiting for the enemy and anxiety and impatience and anger and these things when you lose control that you don't want to lose control of. So even if you do, and even if you do slip up, know that it is in your control to regain control.